call this meeting to order for Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021. If I could ask for a moment of meditation. Since the 1st of January, the first of the year, we have lost 4 more additional residents in the town of Georgina due to COVID-19. And if you could just give a moment to think of the family and friends of those residents. We do have 58 active cases and 8 that are in hospital. So if we can have a moment of meditation this time and just give some thought to those working through a recovery and those that have recently passed. Thank you. We would like to begin today's meeting by acknowledging that the town of Georgina is located over lands originally used and occupied by the first peoples of the Williams Treaties First Nations and other indigenous peoples, and thank them for sharing this land. We would also like to acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as our close neighbor and friend, one with which we strive to build a cooperative and respectful relationship. Could I have the roll call, please, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. All members of council are present.
Thank you. Are there any community announcements at this time? We don't have an EOC update this week, but we'll probably have one next week or the following week. So I don't see any community announcements, hands going up. Is there any addendum items, Madam Clerk?
Sorry, no, there is not.
Great. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Waddington, seconded by Councillor Fellini. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? I don't see any hands going up. Adoption of minutes. We have the minutes of the January 13th, 2021 council meeting. Were there any questions on that? If not, did you have a question on it, Councillor Waddington, or you're looking to move it? Move receipt and adoption of the minutes. Moved by Councillor Waddington, seconded by Councillor Neeson. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Speakers. Madam Clerk, I believe you just sent me a message saying that there are some speakers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's actually there are no speakers. It's actually just our presentation that we have. Okay. She's just logging into the meeting now, so she's not in yet.
Okay.
But she is coming in.
She is coming in because that's coming up in our delegations. We've got Melanie Osmond from the South Lake Foundation announcing its 2021 Run for South Lake event and encouraging participation. So I guess, is she coming in now?
Excuse me to interrupt.
I'm sorry, hang on just a second. I've got a gentleman, Brian. Hang on just a second, please.
Okay.
Rachel, I've got a gentleman, Brian North. Is he involved with this as well?
I believe so, Madam Mayor, but I'm actually, yeah, it is Brian North that is doing the presentation, I believe.
Oh, and not Melanie Osmond?
I guess not.
Okay, thank you. Mr. North, sorry, I just wanted to make sure you weren't on my list. I didn't know the name, so welcome. So you're here in place of Melanie?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Great. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, Madam Mayor, councillors and staff. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. My name is Brian North, and I'm here on behalf of the staff at the South Lake Foundation to once again invite you to join the Run for South Lake this year. For almost 100 years, South Lake has shown a passion to care for our communities. From our beginnings as a 6-bed care home, South Lake has evolved to become a healthcare center that provides leading-edge hospital services. South Lake is our hospital. It is where our friends, families, neighbors, and community members go when there's a medical emergency. This past year, more than any, we need your help. South Lake is a busy hospital, including a top-ranking regional cancer program, the fourth largest regional cardiac care program in the province, state-of-the-art shoulder replacement, cardiac procedures that improve patient outcomes, and surgical programs, a program that is a cornerstone of the hospital. I'm sure you know our communities are growing. Southlake is looking to our future to ensure we continue to meet the needs of our community. But as our community leaders, you know we can't do this alone. Events like the Nature's Emporium Run for Southlake allow us to raise money and bring the community together to run towards a common goal. We're asking each of you to join us for a 4-week virtual event starting on April 12th, starting off with week 1 being nutrition, then consistency, then duration, and then distance. We are pleased that in 2020, the N6 Mayor's Challenge was integral in raising funds, our much needed funds. Team Aurora won and is currently holding the Mayor's Challenge trophy. And as a resident of Aurora, I am proud of their efforts. But as a committee member, nothing would make me happier if all municipalities outdid their efforts of last year and took our fundraising to new heights. I am challenging you to help us see an even tighter race this year. Thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing you all in April.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions to Mr. North at this time? Certainly, we all know it's been a challenge over the last year with any event, any fundraising event. Many had to change direction, go virtual, to postpone, and yet the need is still there. So certainly we'll receive your deputation, and we'll see if we can get a council team and a town team together again. I'm not sure if there was a lead on it, but what we'll do is we'll refer this to the CAO's office and my office, and we'll see if we can get a team together and hopefully rise to the challenge and try to take that cup away from Aurora. So
I'd be happy if you did, as long as they keep raising the funds they have. I would love it if you took it away. Oh
yes, we'll do our best.
Great.
Do I have any questions at this time? If not, could I get a motion to receive the deputation and to refer this to staff for follow-up? Moved by Councillor Neeson, seconded by Councillor Harding. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much, Mr. North, for attending today, and hopefully we'll see you in April.
Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. Okay, members of council, we'll go through the rest of our meeting. We don't have any presentations. We don't have any public meetings. We typically are saving those for our evening meetings at this time. We have reports, and we'll go through the reports, and we can determine which ones we want to separate and which ones we'll adopt that don't require a separate discussion. The first report is report 1A, which is the audit plan for the 2020 fiscal year. This is a pretty standard process that we go through. We do have BDO Canada is our auditors, and that's a very thorough plan they have laid out. If there's no questions on that one, we can consent it. Okay, report B is the 2020 Wastewater Collection System Annual Performance Report. This is from regarding sort of a new system for wastewater management. We've got some funding that we might get, and a new program that's going to be commenced in certain areas in terms of flushing the water mains, the sewage wastewaters. Is there any questions on this one? Do we want to pull it? I don't see any hands going up. We'll do that. Report C is a memorandum of understanding for mutual aid during winter maintenance with the region of York and all lower tier municipalities. This is mainly due to any concerns with a COVID-19 issue. Certainly, if we had an outbreak in one of our work yards or our contractors, we want to make sure that the roads continue to be maintained. So this is formalizing what was often an informal agreement, and they're looking to to do something similar for emergencies that may come up during the summer months. So unless there's any questions on that, we'll let staff move forward with doing that. Thank you very much, staff, for that report. And report D, I think we will pull that because I know I've had a couple discussions with Mr. Butno on that one. So we'll pull that one. So if I can have a motion for reports 1A, B, and C, moved by Regional Councillor Brassi, seconded by Councillor Waddington. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Mr. Butno, I'll let you come forward. The report starts on page 115. I know we've had a couple discussions about a couple issues within the report. Certainly, you're asking about approving the fees to remain as they were last year. I know there's some questions that have come forward that perhaps we should maybe let you take a stab at looking at maybe some other options, considering that we're looking at the attachment that shows the fee schedule that was done for the other programs, and a lot of that was pre-pandemic, pre-COVID in terms of increasing some of the fees and holding some at bay. So I'll let you give an overview on that. And the other issue is if we stop the lottery and go to a first right of refusal. And again, I've had some questions whether, keeping that status quo and almost grandfathering those current slip holders. And I'm just wondering if there's a way to maybe have a hybrid that every few years, every couple years, whatever, it's opened up, because you want to make sure it's fair that other people have an opportunity to get into having a slip. There's a limited supply, and the demand may outweigh the supply. So I'll let you do an overview, and then we can get into additional questions and the comments from members of council. Mr. Butno.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Morning, members of council. Lovely to be here this morning. Thank you very much. In regards to the report that's before you this morning, there are two components to it. One was to provide council with an update on what I would consider an internal matter or an internal model of operation. In 2018, when I came to the municipality, the model that was implemented, and for whatever reasons it was at that time, we call it a lottery style draw. So the division of the two operations within the Jackson's Point Harbor, there's a distinctive Sail Georgina or sail boater clientele operation, and then there's also the power boaters, which are non-members of the Sail Georgina Association. Historically, basically slips would be assigned to Sail Georgina, and they would roll those over to their membership on a basically first right of refusal basis. So they would confirm with the town how many, they would get their 30 slip allocation. They would confirm with the municipality how many individuals were returned and confirmed as members, and they would have their assigned slips year after year. On the flip side of that, the municipality would then, with the balance of those of the slips that are there, and it's somewhere in the area of 17. I believe we have 40 or 43, 45 usable slips. So the balance of those slips, we would then issue them out based on a lottery. So if an individual came to us and in year 2015 had purchased a vessel, was lucky enough to be drawn through the lottery, they would have a slip. There was no continuity for them to be guaranteed or given a slip year after year. And subsequently in those latter years, when I arrived, there were no wait lists. We were starting to dwindle down. Because of that uncertainty with individuals, they didn't want to invest any monies in a vessel if they had the good fortune to be able to do that. So realistically, we weren't really competing with the rest of the marina industry out there. They were basically they were looking at it as a very inconsistent opportunity. Do I want to invest in a vessel? Where will I be from one year to the next? And it was really entirely luck of the draw on whether you ended up in or not. We did have that lottery system in place for 2018 when I began with the municipality. We continued that same process in 2019, and during that season, we also reached out to Sail Georgina as well as the rest of our clientele to ask, what detracts you from wanting to be here? Is it the lottery system? Are there, we know the industry standards that are out there. I came to this municipality with a pretty good background in the operations of marinas. And it really is not, it's a very unique, the lottery style is a very unique system to the operation at hand. And I'm not going to criticize it. I'm going to say it probably served its purpose quite well while it lasted. We transitioned, and the way I spoke to it in the report, we did as staff already transition to a first right of refusal in 2020. So that being said, it might sound like we take the time and we have time in moving into it. All of those decisions have to be made in the fall of 2019 so that we have all the documentation out to all of our clients and everything moves forward so that we're prepared. These contracts are typically issued in early February, hence why the report's before you right now. So we have already moved to a first right of refusal. It was embraced by everyone. And in fact, over the last window, we actually started to see a wait list redeveloping. So albeit it's a small one, we're actually starting to see a wait list where individuals are saying, hey, if a slip comes available, we'd like to be there, which is it's kind of a great momentum for us, and it's a great opportunity to grow and build. So combined with the more important aspect of the report is more an opportunity for me to come to you and ask for permission to continue charging rates and fees, because we can't simply do that as staff. That's an endorsement that comes from the council body. The way it was put forward 4 years ago was all of the rates and fees within our rates and fees bylaw corporately are approved by council, and they were approved, and there was an established schedule for all rates and fees, including the recreation and culture department. And they were basically established for a 4-year window, with the exception of the Jackson's Point Harbor. There were a lot of dynamics in the water around that particular business unit. The marine unit that was being constructed, the discussion on what was going to be the potential growth and opportunities for that facility. The Bonnie Park, what's it called? The marina. The marina and the development that surrounds that area, there were a lot of complete unknowns, and even now there are still some unknowns. Last year, with some additional funding, council approved funds towards a waterfront master plan strategy, which includes the Jackson's Point Harbor operations. The results of that are forthcoming this year, and we're also here to basically do a full review of all our rates and fees in 2022. Now, the quick short of this as well, we come to you and shy of having had the opportunity to embrace a full market strategy, a full market review, and do things outside of what the master plan for the waterfront might tell us is the direction. I shy away from wanting to take a direction that may not be supported by that eventual master plan outcome. We also had the infamous COVID-19 drop on us in March of 2020. It delayed the entire season last year for our seasonal holders. They wanted to be on the water. It seemed to be a safe area to be able to socially distance, physically get out, enjoy fresh air to some capacity. But we also delayed them. There was a 2-month delay in getting them access to that facility, and it was on a very reduced service level. We had minimal staff coverage. We were there to basically provide the very basics, if anything. The opportunity for those clients was literally an opportunity. It was a space that they could actually tie their boats. Going into this coming summer, we need approval to either continue those fees because they're no longer applicable. They expire. They expire from last year. The easiest for me was to recommend that we hold them at the same. We're not going to be able to provide a recovered level of service. We're anticipating, albeit we can open up earlier in the season, it will be open under the same restrictions and the same guidelines that the operation was faced with in 2020. And I tied that in with the fact that with COVID, with the other options that we have, the priorities that we have to put in place, the restricted volume of staff we have. We've redeployed staff. We've had them assigned to other priorities. The budget itself, and that's the bad word. I'll apologize to Mr. Weeder, but the budgets will be upon us faster than we can imagine. It only bought us enough time so that full review would encompass all of the services and the fee structures. so that we could do it in a comprehensive review of that of the rates and fees and charges when we came to. So, a really quick nutshell and a wrap up. I basically wanted to provide council with an update on what the new process is for first right of refusal. And I wanted to I'm looking for council's endorsement to keep the rates at the same so that we can move forward and we can perform that necessary background study and the information. And we can align that, more importantly, with what the recommendations come forward with, because we're going to be using that document as we start to formulate 2022's budget deliberation process. I think I've covered off everything. I'm open to questions if there are any.
I'm sure. Okay. Members of council, are there questions or comments to Mr. Buttineau on the report and the discussion? Councillor Waddington and then Councillor Hardy. Councillor Waddington.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mr. Buttineau. Dan, with the switching to the right of first refusal, I already expressed to you that I didn't think that was a good idea, and I'm sorry. That's just my opinion on this one. Were the people that signed up in 2019 told, or were the people that were signing up in 2019 told that there was going to be a change for the 2020 season?
Everyone was aware that we were moving forward with a new change, and it was actually quite embraced. It aligned it with the operations of typical marinas.
Sorry, Dan. Through you, Madam Mayor. What I mean is, were the people that signed up the previous year told that a system was going to be changing for the next year? Like I get that everybody who currently has a slip is now aware that the change has happened, but were people that were applying for those slips originally told? And the reason being is that everybody's being told that currently has a slip. That's fine, they already have one, but it didn't give people the opportunity previously to get in on this.
Well, through you, Madam Mayor, everyone that was engaged in the process was aware of the change that was forthcoming. Those that were not members already would have not been engaged because we wouldn't have known who they were. Those that were there and decided or opted, because we had a few who opted to not continue, then coming back and saying, "Can I have my slip? Can I have my slip that I had?" I said, "Well, you've already indicated you weren't returning." They were placed on a wait list, and that's what forms the small wait list that we currently now are starting to develop and starting to see an increase on. But beyond that, we've never had a wait list or people knocking on our doors wanting to utilize the facility. If that helps.
Yeah, I think we're talking two sides of the same coin here. Everybody that currently has a slip was told, but people who were applying the previous year did not know that it was changing from a lottery system.
Actually, well, through you, Madam Mayor, everyone that was told actually was accommodated. We wouldn't have had any other people there. We didn't have wait lists prior. If that's it, we didn't actually have an active wait list to say we're moving to a first right of refusal. Therefore, the clientele that are here will have the first right of refusal on those slips, and there may not be any available. It would have been in the same. I think they would have had the same. They would have been faced with the same challenge of doing a lottery and potentially having their name drawn or not. But I didn't have other individuals beyond the clientele that were already there.
All right.
If I'm answering it, I apologize if I'm not understanding the question.
No, and if I'm not asking it well, that's on me. You mentioned that we didn't have a wait list up until now, but I've heard over years of people not getting a slip through the lottery. So how can both of those be true? That if everybody could get one, why would anybody be rejected?
In a lot of cases, whether basically dependent on the water levels, some slips that we normally would have assigned in past years, we could not assign because the water levels were drastically too low. And while it looks like it's a substantial and significant or sufficient water level depth at the beginning of the season, as the season carries on, we used to run into major issues with weeds and with the actual depth and draw of vessels. Those individuals that perhaps, and I'm speculating here, the individuals that perhaps indicated there's no slip for me, it often is the draw of their vessel or the size of their vessel. We can't put a 27-foot vessel into a 20-foot slip. We do permit some overhang, but the slips themselves and the physical size of the slips will dictate. So in a situation, if they're suggesting they were on a wait list, it's because we could not accommodate them with the existing structure of docks that we have in place.
Okay, so I get where you're going with this, and again, through you, Madam Mayor, what you're implying is that the total number of slips isn't the limiting factor; it's the total number of slips for any given size. So we have too many people applying for a specific size, and that's where the lottery system comes into play. So every year, there's at least one group of sizes that not everybody can be accommodated in.
Through you, Madam Mayor, absolutely. That's probably the best way to sum it up. We have only X number of slips. And in some cases, if we've said no to them, it's because we can't accommodate the vessel size that they actually have. We may only have 18-foot slips available with a 2-foot draft, for instance. Some vessels have to be where they are because they're drawing almost 6 feet of draft, which is the depth of water required for them to safely float. In that case, you're absolutely right, Councillor Waddington. They would be basically told, I can put you on a wait list until such time that one of those slips comes available. But we do the lottery overall, but then it also then subs down or breaks down into the availability of that particular size slip and the depth of water that's required for the boat.
All right, so I think we've drawn down as to where the origins of the lottery likely applied as well, simply because there was a limited number and too many people applying for specific sizes. Bold statement. Please tell me that there aren't a bunch of staff and council members that have that size of slip that are now benefiting from a change that the public could have applied for.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think the question was previously asked of me, and I will say that out of the 43, 45 slips that we have, I can confirm that without any specifics. I can confirm that three, possibly four. I think three for certain. There's possibly 4 staff that would have secured slips. And no different than previous, they would have gone through the lottery system, luck of the draw, whether they ended up with the slips or not. In the past, as I said, without the ability to increase slip allocations, if they were fortunate enough that year after year that they ended up with a slip, we didn't have a lot of applications for certain sizes. And prior to my arrival, it was lottery. I inherited the lottery in 2018 when I arrived. I did maintain that process for lack of time into the 2019 season. We still didn't have major wait lists. We had a few that were required, but it was a generic. I personally am not even involved in drawing a name or trying to look at it. It's literally like drawing out of a hat. That's how the names come in, and they were assigned to the lottery. So beyond that, moving forward, those members entirely, all 45, including the 25 that are part of the association, who have always been there under first right of refusal, there's a benefit, I guess, if you want to say that they've been in those slips, they'll have the first right of refusal. The boating world is a fickle one. There are individuals who will commit to it and will wholeheartedly support it forever and lifetime. There are others who will buy the boat on a whim, enjoy it for a season, and then realize it's it comes with a lot of work as well, and you don't get to enjoy that vessel as much as you'd like to. And I was one of those. And then you get out of it, and you really don't want to look at floating on a boat anymore. I guess that's the best explanation I could provide to you for that.
All right, thank you, Dan, and through you, Madam Mayor. Regarding the slip prices, keeping them the same, you had mentioned that with the master plan coming out, I think your words were that you shy away from changes before that occurs. If that was the case, why would we make a change to the way that people get these slips prior to that master plan coming in?
That would have all, through you, Madam Mayor, the move to a first right of refusal, it aligns itself with the corporate directions and the corporate priorities that we have. It improves or enhances our customer service strategy. It basically aligns us, as I indicated in the report, it aligns us with a financial model that we can now base. We can base some substantial or some real numbers when we're projecting budgets and we're moving forward to produce those. In that regard, what I mean is, if we put it to a lottery, and I'll just use an example. If I go a lottery draw and there are 25 slips available through lottery, we put it out there, and let's assume the draw that comes, I pull them out of the hat. Every person I pull out of a hat has a canoe. So the slip rate is based on the size of the vessel, not the size of the slip. Everyone paying for that 14-foot canoe will pay us X dollars. we may have established a budget based on 25-foot vessels and 30-foot vessels. It really provides us with no ability to meet or basically sustain or achieve the budget we put forward. So, in essence, you're with a lottery. We're guessing at the best of times. We were guessing at what the revenues might be in terms of what we'll achieve. With a first right of refusal, we can base it with a lot more confidence on. We know that we have X number of slips at this size, X number of slips at this size. And realistically, that was the way it was. The only time we turned people away or put them on a wait list is if the vessel that they were looking to bring in could not be accommodated with the vessel size. It didn't stop everyone. It never stopped someone with a 16-foot vessel, for instance, occupying a 25 or 30-foot slip.
All right, two final comments then. Through you, Madam Mayor. To counter that point, I would just say we could have had a lottery for specific sizes. Windows of boats, and that would have stabilized the prices and continued the system being the same, in the sense that everybody would have had a fair shot to go. Simply because now that it's first right of refusal, we could have gotten locked in with everybody having those canoes, and then they would have them for eternity. At which point, yes, we know how much money's coming in, but it's always going to be less than what we were hoping for. The final point I'll make before yielding the floor here is looking at the attachment that shows that youth programming costs are going up by 3% and adult programming costs are going up by 2% in other programs. I got a real bad taste in the back of my throat here with the optics of having rates froze for lack of a better word, for people that are likely in the upper income range. The average boater now, it makes around $100,000. Why we're effectively benefiting that group of people, while people that need child programming are going to have to bear the brunt of an extra 3%. So, Dan, I get your arguments on this one, but I don't think I can support this one.
Okay, Madam Mayor, if I can, just in closing, I'll just offer. I don't want to take up or consume much more time. With regards to the rates and the freezing, and when I suggested we wait. The rates themselves, because we had such an impact with COVID-19 and the pandemic on the services, we don't even come close to providing the level of service that the boats that are down there, those clientele right now, what they're experiencing, it doesn't even come close to what we normally would do. And we know that going into 2021, we will not be able to achieve that same thing. So there's a bit of a I guess a reluctance on my part to suggest let's charge you even more and provide you quite honestly quite less than we have been in the past. I suspect with the recommendations, I'm hopeful with the recommendations that it's going to provide us with an opportunity to look at the overall growth and capacity of what that particular facility can do for the municipality. I think it's a gem, to be quite honest with you. It needs some TLC. It's a coal. It's a diamond that needs to be polished significantly to get it to its potential, if I can say it that way. It requires some of those things to make it a real opportunity. It's going to require some of that stuff. It has a lot of potential, and I think when we move in that direction, we'll start to realize it. My operations in past municipalities, in municipally run facilities, and we, as much as we try to compare ourselves to the private industry, the private sector uses a first right of refusal because it's a financial model that makes sense for sustainability. They do charge significantly more, but they also offer a lot more services in terms of on-site service repair, typically fuel and gas, which at one time we did have. So you've seen over a window of time sort of the deterioration of a lot of those services that have happened. And I think for me, I look at it with a positive lens and say there's an opportunity for us to basically really bring back the life and the vitality of that area by using this master plan, by doing things right, and by not rushing into some decisions. The operation itself of a marina, I'll be honest, when you start to look at what you need to invest and you offset that or balance that with what your investment versus what you can make. In both of my previous, in two of my previous commitments with municipalities, those business units actually made money. So the money that was generated from those user groups typically would go into a reserve, And over the course of time, it would pay off. It either paid off the initial investment that council endorsed, or you built a reserve ahead of time so that you could substantiate when I need to replace a dock. And a dock is not a residential dock worth $5,000. The dock systems that you're looking at out there with those fingers, with lights and with power and the appropriate services, you're into a $500,000 investment and upwards. So we've got 2 finger docks. You're probably looking globally over the whole operation itself. It's about $1 million investment, and then you have to establish the rates and fees. But when you do that, you're going to attract that clientele, and then you also position yourself where you're in a position now to be able to substantiate a greater increase than just perhaps the CPI that some of the others are operating on. That's all I would say.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Harding, you had a question. Regional Councillor Grassi next.
Yes, some of my questions were actually answered through Councillor Waddington when he asked them, so that was nice to have that. Sorry. Mr. Butno, the only other question I have is there, I take it there's no profit being made by renting the slips out. Am I correct on that or not?
Through you, Madam Mayor, at this time, Councillor Harding, you're correct. The revenues that we generate, we're starting to show a very small increase in revenues, but the overall cost, there is still a subsidy from the municipality to offset the expenses. That was drastically reduced in 2020 because we didn't provide staffing like we normally would.
Okay, all right. So, and that's understandable for last year, and that's for sure. So, with the way it is right now, I guess, have we ever operated in a factor where we would cover staff and even break even on it?
Through you, Madam Mayor, historically, I would say no. That the cost have always exceeded the revenues generated. Twofold: the lack of a wait list, the conditions of the facilities. A great deal of repair goes into some of these facilities at times because of the way they were constructed. The age and deterioration of the structure or the infrastructure itself. It's going to be in need of replacement. I suspect the master plan will probably give us some life cycle suggestions on how we move forward, as well as maximizing possibly even the layout and capturing that within the whole snapshot of that whole area, including Bonnie Park, including the adjacent properties, to see what the potentials are, so that when we come back to council, we can give you that comprehensive snapshot, and then we can start talking about where we want to go from where we are today.
Great, thank you. I'll look forward to that. Thanks very much. Very good put together report. Thank you.
Thank you. Regional Councillor Grassi, question, comment?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Dan. How many slips are we talking about? What are the total number of slips that are available in the harbor?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I believe 43 was the last count. There's a number. We always had a number of slips we retained. We never issued out. They were retained for transient visitor opportunities, because a component of that particular operation was always to attract the marine visitor, the tourist that's on the water, and bring them into the area to enjoy Jackson's Point and Sutton and Keswick as a whole. There are also some slips that are so restrictive with the way they were designed. The water or the draft in those areas will only accommodate almost, I'll say, you're close to the water, Regional Councillor, a Sea-Doo or a smaller vessel that draws very little depth draft.
So 43 or somewhere around there, the total number of rental slips, or those that may be available for rental, somewhere in that vicinity.
I believe so, yeah. Between 40 and 50, 30 of which have typically been assigned out to Sail Georgina, and on average, they would return back to us anywhere from I'll say 2 to 6. So moving forward, our new agreement with Sail Georgina is they are provided with 25 slips to assign to their members, and I can almost guarantee you that the 25 members that have been there for the past 5, 6, 7 years are those who are there as we move forward. We're working with Sail Georgina to assist in trying to get them in line with some of the philosophies that we also apply to our vessels. So some of the principles and how we assign the slips.
Okay, so Sail Georgina, this year, as part of your policy, you're suggesting that they be assigned 25 slips?
They do actually. Part of our agreement, part of the agreement that we have, the memorandum of understanding we have with Sale Georgina, they're provided with 25 slips. In the past, we would hand the 25 slips. They would do the assignments. They would do all of the administration. Okay. We just simply now say you have 25 slips, but our staff take care of all the administration and the insurance fees, all of the documentation that has to come in with the application.
Okay, and I was asked this question based on the fact that there are slips right now are at a premium on the South Shore of Lake Simcoe. Are there residency requirements either through Sale Georgina or through the town of Georgina with respect to renting or occupying a slip in Jackson's Point?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I will say that the response is probably twofold, or has been twofold. With regards to the slips that we have control to allocate, residency is priority. Priority is given to residents. Shy of no residents applying, then we certainly are open to others, but we try to maintain a 70-30 or 75-25 split. So the priority is given to residents. With regards to the Sale Georgina clientele or client base, I know that their ratio is higher than that, and our commitment with the association was to open up new memberships as they came available to residents, so that ratio would decrease.
So currently, if I was to report back to my constituents, I could say that out of 18 slips, if you said 25 are Sale Georgina, out of the 18 slips, there may be 12 that would require residency. The other 6 are pretty open. And then as far as Sale Georgina, we don't really require them to establish residency for any of their slip rentals?
Of the slips that the through you, Madam Mayor, of the slips that we control as a municipality, I would say much more than 18 are. I would venture to guess 90% or 95% of our slip holders are residents within the association themselves. And I want to preface that with, at the time there was a want to try to get members in and to try to promote that, and there was really a time when slips were not a premium. It was hard pressed for us to fill them. So the ratio with the association themselves, they're closer to a 60%, a 60-40 ratio between resident and non-resident.
Okay, so I'm not following this. So 60-40 as far as Sale Georgina. You said the other 18, you thought that maybe
we're primarily, Madam Mayor, we're primarily, I apologize, we on the slips that we control, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, would be all resident slip assignments.
So the 18 or whatever those are, you would say that there is a residency requirement before those slips are rented out?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, Regional Councillor Grassi, the slips right now are assigned primarily to all residents, and our process, even with the wait list, we split the wait list. If you're on a wait list and you're a resident, you would receive priority over a waitlisted non-resident individual.
Okay.
Doesn't matter the frequency where you come in. If you come in later, it doesn't matter. You're put on the resident wait list versus the non-resident wait list.
And I want to follow up with 2 more. One was with respect to Councillor Waddington's comment with respect to the pricing. I agree. I think anybody that has a boat on Lake Simcoe today realizes, especially on the South Shore, that space is at a premium. And if we have a facility that all of a sudden becomes a higher demand for, then we should recognize that. And I'm not sure, Madam Mayor, whether we should send this back to staff to redo or and I'll tell you why. The model that currently exists, I think I don't have a problem recognizing Sale Georgina as an entity and putting some slips in their name, but I think it's time that we tighten up the rules as far as residency. The people of the town, and as we grow, there are people that come into this town that would like to have access to a slip on the shores of Lake Simcoe, and these are substantially cheaper than what you'll find at any other marina in the town. So I don't have a problem in having some arrangement with them, but that arrangement should just strictly control residency, and I don't have a problem with a lottery. So a hybrid of what currently or what's being suggested, I think may work better going forward, and that we should include whatever the fees are going forward for other services. We should do the same thing with respect to the Jackson's Point Harbor. So I'm not sure whether I'll wait to hear other members of council, but I think perhaps maybe we just refer this back to staff and look at a different hybrid model.
Okay, I'll open up to other questions from members of council at this time. Councillor Neese.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to weigh in on the discussion I had, the vast majority of these discussions as well previously with Mr. Butno and other members of council, and I too have a couple of concerns, although I do have to say I'm encouraged by what Mr. Butno has put forward, and I support it wholeheartedly in terms of the medium and long term, plan in terms of coming up with a master plan, and I've had those conversations with him in terms of wanting to see as a part of this a proper business plan, a financial plan, an asset management plan, and further move towards some type of model where, although it may be apples and oranges with the private industry given the services that are provided at this particular time, in terms of the financial plan, I also think we need to move towards more of a cost recovery as opposed to a subsidization model. So, and that has to obviously, from a financial perspective, account for the capital plans, the asset management plans, life cycle costing, all of that sort of stuff. And then, of course, we overlay that with we'll come back with the waterfront master plan. So I'm encouraged by all of those things and look forward to it. I understand it's, at some level, a large undertaking. I would like to do that and also see some sort of level of separation. I'm not sure how that would necessarily work, but I'd also like to see some level of separation in terms of, from a financial perspective, between the harbor and the town of Georgina, meaning that there's sort of we're the 100% shareholder or something like that, but from a financial perspective, they operate somewhat independently with respect to their finances and their reserves and all of that stuff, all of those things with a view towards full cost recovery at minimum in the long term. So I support that. But on the two specific issues with respect to the user rates, again, the comment, I agree that it's apples to oranges in terms of the private industry, so it's not the same comparison. But I also think that our fees are more than reasonable, and given that they're being still subsidized at some level, and that's recognized, so meaning that that's being spread across the tax base to provide for that benefit, I understand waiting to come back with something more comprehensive in terms of moving away from that model, perhaps. However, at this particular time, and especially given that the COVID times we're in, that for me has changed things as well. Is that from my perspective, just a comment, and I mean it respectfully, but folks are that are engaging in voting and paying for a slip and that sort of thing are fortunate, let's face it, given some of the financial hardships others are facing. So for those individuals that are facing hardship, I don't think they should be subsidizing people who are not in hardship. So although that may not be possible to go to that completely 100% at this time, I'd still like to see some level of increase. So I'd support either sending that piece of it back for a report back, or the alternative is moving something here today, but I think it's probably more prudent to wait for something to come back. And the last issue with respect to the lottery or equity for folks within the town and residency, I understand that issue, and I also had that conversation with Mr. Butno, and I appreciate all the time that he did spend with me. So I understand generally that there is a requirement, for the most part. He provided us numbers here today, but having said that, I too am a little bit, I understand the business model and all that, but I'm uncomfortable with a first right of refusal per se. Maybe that's something we want to do going forward. I guess we're already doing it, but I much prefer the lottery system, but I also understand from a business continuity perspective, which is Mr. Butno's responsibility, and he has to provide a recommendation on that. And he's doing that responsibly. So, but as he should. But to be honest, I'm still a little bit uncomfortable with that, given that there's a potential real or perceived access issue. So, anyway, I'll leave my comments at that. But I think I have the same concerns as others. But I would be happy on those 2 points to send back. And have a report back where the alternative deal with it here, but I think it'd be more responsible to let staff actually bring those issues back. But nonetheless, those are my thoughts on it.
Okay, thank you. And I know in my opening comments before Mr. Butner spoke, the concern about keeping the rates frozen. I understand they're not offering the same amenities that they would normally, but as Mr. Butner has indicated, there is still a subsidization by the town to the harbor rates themselves, which during a pandemic and all the issues that have been laid out by members of council, we might want to look at some sort of increase, whether it's simply CPI or whatever. So I'll come back to you in just a second, Mr. Butner. So what I'm going to ask you is, if it sounds like there's a desire from at least 2 or 3 members of council to send this back to you to look at some sort of increase, and so what would that look like? And is that an issue, because this is now February and we need to have this decided like probably yesterday? So timing is everything. So how soon can we look at doing that? Are you comfortable with trying to put an increase in today, and what would be your suggestion? And then the second topic is the lottery system. And as I said at my comments were, is there a way to do a hybrid in terms of, yes, you grandfather, but the grandfather only lasts for 2 or 3 years, and then it's opened up again to a lottery? Because it could be a situation where somebody may never be able to get into it because their boat is a certain size. All the other slips that are taken through the grandfather are that same size, and that person may wait for an extreme amount of time to be able to get into a slip that is being subsidized by part of their taxes. So I'm wondering if you have an idea of how we could develop a hybrid system, and what you would look at if you really need a decision today, what you would look at for, I think it's palatable to members of council to look at some sort of increase. So, Mr. Butler.
Madam Mayor, I can probably offer you and council a solution that you can use today. From the price perspective increase, I would suggest if they're like the others, the 2% or the CPI, if we want to index that price so that there is a gradual increase, and that's trying to just keep up with the costs, that would be something I'd be very comfortable to say. It requires on the back end staff to go in and modify a lot of those fees, but we can do that. I would prefer to have some kind of direction in that regard today because of the timing, and we need to get out to our clientele to let them know what's coming. So if it's a CPI, if it's the applicable CPI, just like the others, I apologize when I said hold the fees. I more or less said let's align them for the next. In my head, I guess I was thinking let's align them the way we've treated the rest, and at least cover those 2 years so that we can do the entire thing in 2 years and not piecemeal it and move forward. I know in past experiences it becomes confusing when you're looking at amendments to different amendments to a bylaw that covers rates and fees. So I would throw that one out first and foremost. If it's the CPI or it's that same 2 or 3% increase, we apply that across the board, and then we need to reach out and notify the clientele. With regards to the combination or the hybrid of first right of refusal and a lottery, as we were speaking, I had my trusted Jessica support firing me off numbers. So the total number of slips that we currently have are 54. So I just wanted a quick recap, because I know there was some of this, how many do we have? And I said 40 and 50. 54 slips that we have, of which 25 are assigned to Sail Georgina. So the remaining 29 slips that we have in our control, basically one is assigned to our fire department to accommodate their fire suppression vessel and their emergency response vessel. There are also 8 transient slips that are kept open for transient bidders and opportunities. The easy one in proceeding, that leaves us with about 20 20 that are in a first right of refusal. If council is open to this, I would suggest, that we've already implemented the first right of refusal. We maintain that, and then a balance between those transient slips. If there's a window where we offer up 5 of those 8 transient slips to the lottery component, and that lottery draw is there, then we're accommodating to the best of our abilities what we can with that existing transient, the transient vessels, and we're still maintaining some transient slips to encourage visitors to the area. I'll throw that out with the caveat: a transient, and I don't want to say it's not the same pain, but a transient coming to our facility needs to basically be aware of the rules. There's a lot of hands-on. We did not permit transients at all in 2020 because there's a lot more engagement and hands-on that's required to educate them and show them around and provide them with the necessary accesses. It's also based on the honor system of walking up to almost to the end of that parking lot, or at least 75% of the way up the parking lot to actually go and purchase your ticket through the ticketing system to pay for your slip. And I'll be honest, I pulled a report in 2019 to say, okay, we had 8 transient slips. How much revenue did we generate? And I'll be honest, and this is a bit of a laugh. The report cost us through the software. It cost us $100 to produce, and it advised us that we had generated $90 in transient fees for the entire season. So we actually lost another $10 by pulling the report to find out how many transients had honorably paid for their transient slip fees. So that, to me, that for moving forward and with everything that we're dealing with, and just the business as not usual, if we were to move forward with if we continue the first right of refusal, which I would recommend regardless as we move forward, at some point in time, the only way we'll make this, speaking to Councillor Neeson's comments, I fully support them. I want to see this grow to become a self-sustaining model. It has the potential. It's going to require some investment, but you then need to look at the model of how you balance that and then how you establish the fees so that you have that gem that's on the south shore of Lake Ontario, and it's attracting people. And we have a list of turnaways. So that's kind of what I'm throwing out as a kind of a blended suggestion.
Okay, so if I can get this correct, you would recommend that there be an increase of up to 2 to 3%. Is that what you're saying? CPI, the same as what the other user groups, other programs. So that same increase.
Yes, Madam Mayor, that would seem to be fair among council members. That would be an acceptable process, okay. And we can do that on the back end.
Okay, so that's the first sort of change, which I think will satisfy a number of members of council. The second one is you would say that continue on with the first right of refusal for the 20 slips that are out there now, and also take 5 of the transient slips and put them into a lottery system this year.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I think that would be a fair way to accommodate those individuals who are wanting to buy a boat or secure some slip opportunity.
Okay. That being said, they may have a boat that doesn't fit into the right slip that's in the lottery. So those transient slips, are they all one size? Are there some of the bigger, the smaller, the medium?
We try to maintain the various sizes. So there's an opportunity in all sizes that through those 5 we could accommodate. Okay,
but there's still the chance that if 8 people put in for, or let's say 5 people put in for the lottery, that they may have a boat that doesn't fit to what slip is available when they are said, okay, you won the lottery, but it doesn't fit with the size of your boat. That opportunity still exists.
That's correct. Yeah, that is correct. We would actually, Madam Mayor, on drawing with the lottery, it would be a draw assigned to the size of vessel that we're drawing, the size of the slip we're drawing for. So it will be as random as we can possibly and as transparent and fairly as we can possibly make it. It still may not guarantee everyone in the lottery an opportunity. Yes. Okay.
So if we make those adjustments, and I don't have the exact wording, but I think we can make the adjustments in the recommendation that would be to receive the report and that council approve an increase of, do you want me to say CPI, or how do you want me to word that, Mr. Button, in terms of the increase?
An increase between 2 and 3% to match CPI.
Okay.
That it may fluctuate from one to the other, but it becomes fair across the board.
Okay, so for the 21-22 season slip fees, and that we direct staff to pull 5 of the 8 transient slips and put them into a lottery for this season. Okay, is that good? And then, I don't know, recommendation 3, adopt a bylaw to approve. We would need attachment 1, but that we've just changed that. So do we have, is the bylaw in here? Yeah, so we would need to come back later with a revised bylaw, Mr. Butno, or
we can just indicate as amended. We'll amend the bylaw to reflect the recommendations.
Okay.
The bylaw is more a formality, just to indicate there's an amendment to it.
Okay, so members of council, are we clear on what we're having Mr. Butno move forward with? So do I have a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Waddington. Councillor Flynn, did you want to second that, or do you have a question? You're seconding it? Okay. Question or comment? Councillor Neeson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I may have more, but I just want to clarify, if I could, with respect to the matching the increase for the other programs, as indicated within our agenda. So I just want to, I guess, up for debate, but I think what's been suggested would also cover the transient slips within, and that's covered on page 127 in terms of the current costing. So given what we've heard with respect to the transient slips, so if we're pulling 5 of the 8, meaning we have 3 transient available, we're hearing supply is not necessarily an issue, or demand is not necessarily an issue. Excuse me. I think what I would be suggesting, and notwithstanding, they'll have to make a determination through the EOC, I would think, whether or not we're going to open them at all, given COVID, open up to visitors. But nonetheless, that's a decision for later. But I think we should exclude the cost increase for the transient slip, because if they're not being used now, we're collecting $90 over one of the years, and that tells me there's an issue. Not only it may be an issue of demand, it may be an issue of cost. I don't know. So I would suggest that we exclude the transient. That no issue with respect to increases for the others.
So you would exclude them as long as we're not going to open up the harbor for transient users. Is that what you were suggesting?
Well, I would suggest, I would think the EOC will make that decision, Madam Mayor, in terms of COVID at a later time, whether or not we're going to. But what I would suggest, just in terms of the cost, a suggested increase, I would say, let's just leave that alone. But I'm not sure what's being moved and seconded.
Okay. Mr. Butno wanted to make comment, and then Councillor Fellini wants to comment. Sure. Mr. Butno.
Madam Mayor, with respect to Councillor Neeson's comment, we can certainly indicate excluding the transient fees. Foremost, I would say it's just it's not a demand, it's not a price, it's more of a faith, good faith of the system itself, or just you know what, I'll go on the high side and say an unawareness of the transient member coming in, realizing that they have to pay a fee. But really quickly and easily, for the few that are there, we can always say that the price increase will exclude, and it's a flat rate. That's easier for us as well, because that involves a whole different. The fees that we charge our clients are done through an ActiveNet system. The fees that a transient would pay are done through a programmable. It's like your parking pass. So it's the parking pass that applies. If we leave that untouched, it's actually easier for us to not have to reprogram. So I'm completely okay with that moving forward.
Okay, and Councillor Fellini, question, comment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just for some clarity, from what I understand, we currently have 8 transit slips, which we have been, I'll say for lack of a better word, undercharging because it costs us money to have transit slips. What I've heard is that we want to make 5 of those now to lottery slips, which leaves 3 transit slips. And agreed again with Councillor Neeson that this year may not be in the EOC side, of course, but we have 3 transient slips. But because we've gone from 8 down to 3, the loss has been very much mitigated by what we're trying to do in terms of savings. So should we not just carry on and make the increases and make the CPI part of all that? I understand that. Transient slips can go to lottery license, if you will, for the 5 of those, and that leaves 3 left behind. If they are not operational, it's not the thing that we can do about that. Just want to get some clarity there, that's all.
Okay, so right now, the way the motion has been moved and seconded is that all the fees, including the transient, would be subject to that increase. So unless there's a desire from the mover and a seconder to change that to exclude the transient, the way that I read it out, and I think moved and seconded, that it stays. So the mover and the seconder wanting it to remain, that everything would get an increase. Councillor Waddington, I'll let you speak. You moved it.
Madam Mayor, through you, considering the fact that nobody's really paying for the transient slips anyway, I would throw out the suggestion that maybe we shouldn't be trying to charge $30 at all. But no, I would leave them the same as what they are to save staff from trying to reprogram it and track down people that aren't paying anyway.
Okay, so you're excluding the transient. Are you okay with excluding the transient, Councillor Fellini, for this year anyway? And then when it comes back with a bigger look at it, and I think the key is enforcing the fact that the transients need to pay. And with COVID and the fact that we don't have the same operation that we would normally have at the harbor, this may not be the year that we try to put in enforcing the transient pay. I think it's something that when Mr. Butnow comes back with a complete report, that it can be covered then. So are you okay with excluding the transients this year?
I am, Madam Mayor. Just for clarity, though, we're only going to have 3 transit slips, correct? Okay.
Right. We're only going to have 3.
Yes.
That may or may not operate at all.
Understood.
If EOC says no transients. Mr. Butnow, final comment, then I'm going to try to get a vote.
Very quickly, Madam Mayor, the recommendation from our department, there will not be transients coming in if we're still in the same situation we are right now. It's just a safety precaution on our part, and we don't have the staffing there to be able to manage transients.
Okay, so that's what we'll move forward. So we won't bother increasing those. It saves you staff time to reprogram things. So we'll go with receiving the report, the 2 to 3% CPI increase, excluding transient, and that 5 of the transient slips be pulled and put into a lottery. And that recommendation 3 is we would adopt the bylaw as amended. I've got it moved and seconded. Are there further questions or comments? Regional Councillor Grassi.
So I appreciate the comments from Mr. Butnow through you, Madam Mayor, with respect to the price increases, because this facility is subsidized by the general taxpayer and the tax levy. But I'm not sure I can answer back to those that have asked me about residency.
Mr. Butnow, you want to clarify that for Regional Councillor?
So just so that, from what I understand, if you have 20 slips that become the right of first refusal, is there a residency with respect to those? I take it the lottery may not have a residency, but shouldn't Sale Georgina have some sort of a residency that will be, 90% of the members or whatever would be residents of the town of Georgina?
Mr. Butnow, you want to cover the lottery system first and who gets priority?
Certainly, Madam Mayor, the lottery system would be controlled by the municipality. We can easily identify that priority will be residents. We can actually put that right in our policies. Out of the slips that are allocated, I was given the numbers. 33 are resident slip holders. 12 are not. The majority of those 33 are members of the association. The specific number that they currently are at, and as I said, we're working with the association to better those percentages. They have a 70+% non-resident membership within the association, and we're looking to bring that. We're looking to reduce that so that there's a greater emphasis on residents versus non-residents.
So let me understand that through you, Madam Mayor. So 3/4 of of the people that park their boat in the Jackson's Point Harbor that are subsidized by the residents of the town of Georgina are not residents of the town of Georgina?
Are residents.
I thought you just said 70%.
70%. It's a 73% residency rate. The unfortunate part is we're well into the 90th percentile and above, but the percentage of the members within Sale Georgina there's a greater percentage of non-residents, and that's what we are working with the association and treating everyone as fairly as we can. That as available slips come up that are within the control of Sale Georgina, they're asked to assign those out to residents first. That residents receive a priority assignment on new slips that come available that are within the realm that are held and controlled by Sale Georgina membership.
So I'm not sure I understand that because I think you said it in two different ways. But
well, maybe you can take it offline with Mr. Butno, and you can have a conversation because I think what we're looking at is hang on just a second. What we're looking at is through Sale Georgina, you're trying to develop a new memorandum of understanding with them, and that could certainly be part of that memorandum of understanding, that there be a greater percentage be residents, and that's where I think you're trying to work towards. Are you not, Mr. Butno?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, and very quickly, just to try to, yes, there already is a new memorandum or a letter of understanding in place that identifies that we are going to work towards achieving a higher percentage of residents versus non-residents. Where it's skewed, Regional Councillor Grassi, the overall membership or the overall slip holders it represents about 73%, 75%, 3/4 are residents of the municipality. Where it gets skewed is the control that we have. We're well over 95% residents. We do have a couple that are non-residents that have been in there. When you look at the Sale Georgina side of things, where the reason that percentage comes down is there's a higher number of non-residents that are members of the Georgina Sale Association that are non-residents versus residents, and we are working with them, and we're working well together. They're cooperating quite well, and they want to achieve the same ratios. We're looking to reduce the number on their side so that we can achieve a much higher residency ratio.
So great. So through you. So then, as far as the agreement with Sale Georgina, does that come up for renewal on an annual basis? So you can make those. When you say you're working with them, what does that mean? Are there requirements within that agreement that says that by a certain date you have to have a certain number of residents that are occupying the spaces?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the agreement itself is in principle, and I say that only because it has not been a signed agreement on behalf of the Sale Georgina. It expired. We worked on an honor system last year to keep it moving forward. So we have changed a lot of the dynamics. At one time, that agreement stipulated that they had to perform a lot of tasks and responsibilities that typically should fall to staff. We had staff that were scheduled there, so they continued to do that. The agreement itself needs to be fine-tuned. It is not in place. It is a working document right now, and with COVID in 2020, again, backburnered a lot of things. We continue to communicate with the executive board. 2021 will be no different. The hope is that as we move out of COVID and into recovery, we'll be in a position where we've got a much more stringent set of terms and criteria that the association follows, and it also will identify very, very solidly the guidelines or more strict guidelines in terms of the ratios between resident and non-resident. So not to exclude non-residents, but the emphasis will be that there's a priority provided to residents in terms of the occupancy of those slips.
So I guess through you, Madam, we just want to take that as direction, or do you want to put it as a recommendation that by such and such a date you formalize an agreement between Sale Georgina and another Georgina?
Madam Mayor, I don't know that we can pick the date. It's a back and forth. As it stands right now, we do not have an agreement with them, so the onus falls on the association to fall within our parameters. But I can assure you it was very clearly stated to the board that we were looking toward reducing that ratio of resident to non-resident, so that we could achieve what would fall in line with the overall principles that were provided through our goals and objectives in our vision and strategic plan corporately. we tend to use those documents to guide us, and so we want to input and implement memorandums of understanding and documents on a lower level that support those upper level initiatives and goals.
Do you need something in this motion as direction to achieve that memorandum of understanding?
Madam Mayor, I don't require it from a staff perspective. That's something that we'll work on. We're going to be bringing it back to you once it's finalized, because you as council will ultimately endorse it anyhow. It's a work in progress. We're working well together. It's not a match back and forth to see who's going to win. We actually are collectively working very well together to come to a good solution that's a win-win for all.
Okay, we certainly heard the direction today, and we can take that back to Sale Georgina in terms of wanting to see a much higher ratio of residents to non-residents actually utilizing those slips, because as we said, they are subsidized by the town, and we want to make sure that that percentage increases. Councillor Neeson, did you have a question or comment? Because I'd like to comment, Councillor Neeson.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I just wondered if we wanted to either provide for an additional recommendation, or in the alternative, pending thoughts is just direction. I wonder if what we want to be asking for is for a report back on a progress towards the master plan with respect to an update of what work has been undertaken by the end of 2021. I'm not positive that all of that work, we have the capacity to conduct all of the work as we discussed with respect to an asset management plan and a financial plan, the business plan, and all that sort of stuff. But maybe if we at least have an update by the end of 2021 of where we're at, and maybe look at trying to finalize the final year before the next year for that voting season, perhaps that is achievable. So I don't know if that would be direction.
Okay, so you're looking for an update on the harbor, the plans for the harbor, an update. Could that be, do you want that in the motion, Mr. Buttineau, or do you want just direction to come back, later this summer, fall? Mr. Redden, did you want to make comment on when we could?
Through you, Madam Mayor, direction is appropriate, and we can say that we'll come back after during the third quarter.
Okay, so that's fair. So direction for staff on an update on the harbor plans going forward. Okay, further questions or comments? All those in favor? Nope, okay, opposed? Did you vote, Regional Councillor Grassi? I didn't see a hand go up. Oh, in favor? Okay, sorry, I tried to scan, so, okay, that carries. Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Buttineau, for the report, and we'll move forward with those recommendations. Moving on, members of council, we've got disposition, proclamations, general information items. Was there anything asked to be removed from general information items, Madam Clerk?
No, there was not.
So I just need a motion to receive the general information items on page 134. Councillor Waddington, are you moving that? Moved by Councillor Waddington, seconded by Councillor Fellini. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. There's no committee of adjustment matters. Motions or notices of motions, are there any? Don't see any hands going up. Regional business. Sorry, Councillor Sebo, did you have a question?
Through you, Madam Mayor, not a question, just a comment related to the section regarding notices of motions and motions. At last week's meeting, I indicated that I would be bringing forth a notice of motion regarding off-road vehicle use in the town of Georgina. Procedurally, that's not possible without a motion being made to reconsider, which would require 2/3 support from council. I'm not going to be making that motion at this time, so we'll wait the 6 months, or at least until the police come back with an update on how things have gone this season, and then we can go from there. Thank you.
Great, and that's a good suggestion. I think that was one reason that was suggested, that the police come and give an update on not only ATVs during the winter, but comments in general, and then we can look at going forward with any further recommendations. Regional business, Regional Councilor Grassi, anything you want to report on? We've got a meeting scheduled tomorrow, COVID update, and I'll let you speak to your comments.
Yeah, you might want to comment as well. I'll leave it up to you, Madam Mayor, but with respect to the Upper York sewage solution, we had an extensive discussion at the Regional Council meeting last week, and I just wanted to report back to Council that there were 3 recommendations. They were voted on separately. They were divided. One was that Council affirm its support for the Lake Simcoe solution as documented in the Upper York sewage solution environmental assessment. I voted against that. I'm opposed to the Upper York sewage system and that. There was also a recommendation that the regional staff continue discussions with the province of Ontario and Durham region related to a potential provincially preferred southern solution as an alternative to the preferred solution identified in the Upper York sewage solution environmental assessment. I asked that there be amendment and that it only read that regional staff continue discussions with the province of Ontario and Durham region related to a provincially preferred southern solution and report back. I voted in favor of the amendment. I was defeated. It came back as the original recommendation. I voted opposed to the recommendation. And then the recommendation number 3 was just that it be circulated. And I was fine with it being circulated, but at the same time, just so that you know, I did what I said I would do. I was opposed to the Upper York in all of its aspects, whether it was with respect to an alternative, and I did that based on a couple of things. One being the letter in July from the Minister of the Environment, where he clearly identified, and I said this as part of my statement at the region. He clearly identified that he wanted York region to look at the southern solution. And I followed up by saying that it was the province that made the direction in the first place to go north at some point in time, although the infrastructure, some of the infrastructure that's in place was built in the 90s to accommodate the southern solution. So that's what I did, and I lost on all accounts. But I think I did what my constituents and what others have asked me to do.
Yes, thank you. I had said at this council a couple of weeks ago, I said at regional council a couple of weeks before, at that time, that I would not be supporting that recommendation 2, that reaffirming the support of the Upper York. So I, like yourself, and I think there was 5 members that did not, that opposed that part of the recommendation. I supported your motion to amend the first recommendation. When that failed, I felt it was important that the province and the region discuss the southern solution, and did support that because they do need to have those discussions. And if we had defeated that would have left us in limbo. So I felt it was important that the province do sit down with the region to discuss that southern solution. I think I'm pretty clear in that I did not confirm and reaffirm the position of supporting the Upper York as that preferred solution. So I think I followed through with what I had indicated I would do as well. So it will be interesting as those discussions move forward and as we get updates. Some of them will be in closed session at the region, and we'll be unable to give those details. But what is able to be shared, I'm certain Regional Council Grassi and I will share what we are able to share coming out of any discussion. So we do have the meeting tomorrow, so we'll keep you up to date as to what happens from that meeting. Was there any business that needs to be finished up? Any other business? I don't think there was anything left from the meeting. We do have the bylaws. We've got the bylaw number 1, which would be as amended, excluding the transient slips, and as amended for the increase. And second bylaw is the traffic control bylaw on Ways Bay that comes from September 2019 meeting, and I think finalized sometime this spring or whatever. So there's the 2 bylaws. I need a motion for the 2 bylaws. Moved by Councillor Sebo, seconded by Councillor Harding. Did you have a question, Councillor Sebo, or are you just seconding?
Madam Mayor, I thought that under other business, I might bring up something I've been thinking about the last few weeks.
Well, hang on. Sorry, Councillor Sebo, we're in the middle of a vote, so I'll come back to you.
Oh, sure. On. Okay, that's fine.
We're in the middle of...
And I'm happy to move that as well. That's fine.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Councillor Neeson, question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just on the bylaws for 17.1, do we need as amended?
I said that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yep, I did say as amended and with the CPI and excluding transient. Sorry if you didn't hear it.
My apologies.
That's okay. Audio on internet sometimes cuts in and out. So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Oppose, and that's carried. Other business. Councillor Sebo, usually other business refers to things that haven't been completed in the meeting. If you've got a brand new topic, I would maybe ask that you can mention it here, but if there's something new, we're going to need to simply refer that to staff. And I would ask, what's your...
Of course, Madam Mayor, it's nothing major. It was just regarding something that we did a couple times back a few years ago. Everybody agreed that we thought it was a good idea that we involved staff from the animal control office and do a pet of the week or a pet of the month. And it occurred to me that we haven't done it in a long time, and there might be an opportunity to do that at an upcoming meeting via Zoom. I'm sure there may be a staff member at the center that could, present one of the cats and put it on the screen and just provide a little levity to one of our meetings going forward. That was the only thing I wanted to. Thank you.
Okay, we'll direct that to Mr. Cronsberry to see what we could do with that. Thank you. Okay. We have a closed session, and we're going to need to take a few minutes, but I'm just going to ask for a motion to move into closed session. The first one is the security of the property of the municipality or local board, Section 2392A of the Municipal Act. This is an internal audit and a verbal update, a verbal report. And B is personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, Section 2392B of the Municipal Act. This is a human resources update, and this is a verbal report as well. So if I could have a motion to move into closed session, moved by Councillor Waddington, seconded by Councillor Fellini. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Now, it is going to take us a couple minutes. This is the first meeting that we've done e-scribe and a closed session. So if you want to just turn your videos off for a couple minutes, take a short little break. Don't go anywhere too far. But